Hey guys, what is going on? Today's video we're going to do a maintenance item to the good old 2004 Duramax. With it getting a little bit colder, I thought it was about time. So I've had this truck for about 8 months now, and I knew the guy that owned it. You know, he takes care of his stuff. I wasn't worried about that. But you know, a lot of people recommend that whenever you get a new vehicle, go ahead and change all the fluids. To be honest with you, 8 months I haven't changed any fluids in this truck. I know, I probably should have, but you know, looking at all the fluids, everything looked good. But today I figured, you know what, it's getting cold. I'm gonna go ahead and change the oil in this truck. It's got some 15W40 Rotella in it, and it's getting cold, so I thought I was gonna try out the 5W15, and we're gonna kind of do a separate video talking about that versus the 15W versus the 5. I know the video series on the 2014 Silverado, a lot of the maintenance items on that have been really popular consistently. A lot of folks like that, and I think it's really helping a lot of folks out. So we're gonna do one 2004 Duramax, and this really goes for any Duramax. It's pretty much the same across the board for a lot of these trucks. All right guys, so I've got everything laid out in the shop over there. We just got to move the Duramax over there, so let's get started. So one thing I did want to notate when doing this is just kind of how the truck sounds whenever we're starting it cold. Now it's somewhere between 45 and 50 degrees where I live right now. I know, not real cold right now, but you can definitely tell in this little bit cooler weather that it's affecting its startup. So I'm gonna let the glow plugs warm. ABS lights on. We're gonna do another video on hopefully how to fix that. We'll set you guys out here, see if you can kind of tell how it starts up. Overall engine sounds good. It don't sound bad or anything. All right, maybe loud because it's straight piped, but let's hop out and see if we can tell how the motor sounds. Right now we're sitting at somewhere between 70 to 80 PSI. I'll go ahead and turn her off here. And I'm gonna show you everything that we need to complete the job. I've got it all laid out here for you guys. So first start part of the process, draining the oil. Obviously, we're gonna need something to catch it in. I've got my little oil catch pan down here. Make sure you've got it unscrewed so the oil actually goes in it. And top popped. You can clean this out if you want to. I'm not going to worry about it. I got a different use for this oil here, this used oil. What you're going to need, something to remove the oil filter. Got this little guy here. Works great for me. 16mm socket. I've got me a breaker bar. Now, I know a lot of guys are probably going to say, oh, you shouldn't do that. You're going to tighten it too much. Just, you know, be smart with it. Don't over tighten it. You'll kind of figure it out regardless of what you're using. You don't have to use a breaker bar and a socket. If you've got just a regular socket set or some open-ended wrenches, you can use those too. If you are going to use something smaller, you might want a rubber mallet. If somebody tightened it very much, maybe tough to get off. We've got the oil here. Yep, I'm going with the 5W40 Delo by Chevron. I just wanted to try this out. I don't know what you guys think. Leave it in the comments down below. Do you like the Delo? Do you like Shell? It seems like they both got their followers, but I'm going to try this Delo out. I've liked a lot of Chevron products. We've got an original AC Delco filter. I like AC Delco OEM parts, and the part number is PF2232 for a 2004 LB7 Duramax. Pretty much all the LB7s at least. So oil filter in here. We got a funnel so we can put that in. And then for cleanup, I've just got some carburetor and air intake cleaner, SuperTech Walmart brand, and a couple shop towels. I was really surprised how often I used these whenever I got them. Didn't think I'd use them much, but definitely recommend getting some shop towels for just around the shop doing any sort of work. So that's pretty much everything that you're gonna need right here. So let's go ahead and get the process started. So obviously you don't have to use the stuff that I'm using here, but you are gonna wanna make sure whenever you're doing this that you're gonna wanna get an oil filter wrench that's gonna fit for the vehicle. It's a bigger one, I think a 3.5 inch right around. You need either 5W40 weight or 15W40 weight. I think I'm gonna run it simply because if it's getting below freezing, 5W40 is gonna be better. I think a lot of guys are probably gonna argue with me on that, but obviously a fuel filter that fits, you can get it anywhere. I'm gonna leave links down below for all this stuff here that you need for the oil change on Amazon, because that's where I got every bit of this, with the exception of this SuperTech. It's a Walmart brand, I believe anyway. But if you like this video, be sure to use that link down below. It does monetarily help the channel, which in turn helps me do these maintenance items for you guys, as well as building out the truck. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna start the truck. It is dead cold. I've let it sit for a little while, even after pulling it in here. I'm gonna let it run for 4 or 5 minutes or so, just to warm it up a little bit, that oil will flow out a little bit better, get some of that crud out of there. But I'm not gonna let it run any longer than 5 minutes because I don't wanna get burned. And you guys shouldn't either. You shouldn't change your oil whenever it's super warm, unless you're just really careful, because otherwise you're asking to get burned. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and crank her over. Whoops. Let's see, wait for the light to go out. There we go. And I'm gonna let it sit for 5. All right, truck has run for right at 5 minutes. Turned it off. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop the hood. Whoops, I was reaching for them on 2014. I need to grab down here. We're gonna pop the hood just to make things drain a little bit smoother. There's a little trick you can do. We're gonna climb under the hood here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to take the dipstick where you check the oil. I'm just gonna pull this out here. That way air can go in the top. It'll just drain a little bit quicker and you don't even have to pull it all the way out. We're gonna do that. And then let's climb under the truck with a few things. Obviously, your oil catch pan there. I'm gonna take my oil filter wrench, take my 16mm socket with extension, and I'm gonna take a shop towel because once you get under there, you'd be surprised if you start making a mess that you're gonna want a shop towel. So let's get all this stuff under the truck and start draining some oil. All right, so we are under the truck. I am under, here's the front driver wheel. If you look up here, you'll see our oil filter. And if you look right over here, where I'm shining the light, there's the drain plug. Also, I didn't mention, I've got me a little light down here. Just makes things a little bit easier if I need it. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna put your pan right below your drain plug right here. I try to get mine most of the way out here because whenever it comes out, it's gonna wanna really shoot out of here and closer to you than what you realize. And then as it kind of slows off, draining straight down, we can push the pan back. But like I say, make sure you've got your valves open on your catch pan there. That way you're ready to catch it. And I'm gonna go ahead and undo this. Well, she was on there pretty tight. You can already see we're seeing a little bit of oil, so I'm pushing pressure against this in hopes that I can just pull it out real quick and it'll drain real smooth. Just like that. You can see we got a straight shot. I don't think we're gonna lose a drop here. And I'm gonna take the drain plug, just kind of get it set off aside here. I'm gonna set it on our shop rag. We're gonna come back to that here in a bit. We're just gonna let the oil drain. And once the oil's all drained, then we'll move on over to the filter here. All right, under the truck, we are at a really slow drain. You can see right there. So I've crawled out from under the truck and I've actually taken the plug here that you can see, and I've just cleaned it up with my little shop towel here, just to get anything that might be on it off, any contaminants or anything like that. You can see we've been using it. And you could take this under if you want to stay under there, but here's the new oil filter. Some folks like to, and I'm gonna try to put a little bit in here, just to keep from a complete dry startup, to fill it with a little bit of oil. But the way this one sits in there kind of at an angle, you don't want to fill this up to the top because as soon as you turn it on its side, it's gonna start pouring out. So I'm just gonna fill it up maybe a quarter of the way with oil, and we're just gonna leave it at that. So I'm gonna grab my Dello here. We're gonna crack it open. Okay, so I just poured maybe a quarter full here in the oil filter. I forgot to mention too, I've got 3 of these. You need 2.5 gallons or 10 quarts to do an oil change on the 6.6 Duramax. Now, that's one thing I found interesting from going from a gas vehicle to diesel, is that typically you see measurements in gallons. As you can see here, this is a 1 gallon jug, which is 4 quarts. But most of the other oil that you see that you'd run in a gasoline engine just comes in 5 quart jugs, where these are 4 quarts. So they sell them in 2.5 gallons, or you can get 3, and then you've got 12 quarts or 3 gallons. So we're gonna use 2.5 gallons or 10 quarts, however you want to think of it. All right, let's check on our drainage down here. We're still going just a little bit, so I'm gonna let it drain off. We'll replace the plug, tighten it down just a little bit, and then we'll move on to that oil filter. All right, oil has stopped draining, so I have replaced the plug, as you can see. Tighten it down, not real tight, but tight enough that I know it's not gonna leak. So now I'm gonna drag my oil pan over under the oil filter and get it pretty dead center of there. And I'm gonna take the oil filter wrench. It's pretty easy. Put it on there. I may wanna put it on there this way. And then you just kind of cinch it down like this. And you wanna, whoops, so you guys can see in the light here. Just kind of wanna cinch it down like this. And then turn it to the left. Left means loose. So I may set you guys down. It may require 2 hands for this. Oh, it's on there pretty tight. So let me loosen this and we'll take it off and be ready to catch that oil. Whew, that dude was on there. All right, so now that we got it loosened up, drain pan under it, just gonna slowly start twisting it off here. We're gonna keep an eye on things, keep an eye on our pan, make sure we're as centered as we think we are. You're gonna see some oil come out. I'd recommend letting that drain first. Let it drain for just a second. And then whenever you pull this out, you're gonna wanna tip this side, the front side, facing towards the engine, down. And just let it spill on into your pan. So this right here isn't looking too bad. We'll loosen it up a bit more. Just trying to keep as much off of me as what I can. There we go. See what I mean? Look at all the oil coming out of there. So I'm gonna set this dude right over here, let it drain on out. We'll let this dude drain for just a second. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna catch a little bit of that on my finger here. And I'm gonna put it on the top of this seal right here. And that just makes it seal a little bit better. Makes it easier for whenever you gotta do another oil change too. Just a nice thin layer. You could use new motor oil if you want to, it really doesn't matter. Also, make sure that the gasket, which I can see on the bottom of this one, came off, because you don't want to double gasket it. What's gonna happen is if there's another gasket on here and you put this on here, you're gonna have a big old oil leak and probably be out of motor oil by the time you realize something's going on and you're gonna run into some real trouble. We'll let this drain for a little bit longer, and once it's done mostly draining, it's gonna screw the new oil filter on, and it even shows you on there, and it's upside down, I apologize. I just have to keep it that way since it's got oil in it. It tells you to go 1 to 1 1/4 turns past tight. So basically the way I do it, guys, is I get it on there tight with my hand, and then I just kind of cinch it down with my hand. I don't get it much tighter than hand tight, because otherwise you run into kind of what I ran into just a second ago. It gets really tough to get off even with a wrench on there. So you definitely don't want to get it too tight on there. Okay, I've still got a bit of a small drip on this. Not terrible though. I'm gonna go ahead and take my oil filter. You're just gonna take it up there and screw it back, much like you unscrewed the other one. Just make sure it's not cross-threaded or anything. Don't force it on there, it'll put itself on. I can feel it starting to thread, so now we're just gonna spin this dude all the way on there. And it's about hand tight, so I'm just gonna cinch it on there. About like that. There we go. Okay, so now I've got the old filter draining here. You can see more stuff coming out. There's a little spot that I can set it on here, if I can find it in the mess. Yeah, just right here. Helps some of that stuff to drain out of there. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some of my carb cleaner, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray it on these spots. This is not a necessary step. I just like keeping things clean. One, because it looks nice, shows you take pride in your work. And then also, it'll help you detect any leaks. If things are clean, like this, I mean, you may notice it leaking, but if it stays like this, you may not. Whereas if I clean this up, I'm probably gonna notice that it's leaking. So I'm just gonna spray some of this on there. Get things looking nice. Take my shop towel I had, and then just kind of wipe some stuff down. It doesn't have to be perfect, but like I say, I just like getting things cleaned up a little bit. All right, there we go. Our drain process is complete. So now we can crawl out from under the truck. And I'm just gonna leave that stuff down in there right now because I can come back to it. And you can either drag it out if you want to, or in my case, I'm leaving it because I know I can clear it all and back out and then clean up. I will move this stuff so I don't run over my filter remover, sockets or anything. But now once we got the oil filter on, drain plug in, don't forget about that drain plug. We can move on over to the front of the engine and start filling our oil. So I'm gonna clean out my filter. We're gonna come right over here. And this is where we want to fill. Once again, make sure you got this loose. It'll just help get some of the air out of there so it'll fill faster. But the cap was right here. I took it off a little bit earlier, sorry guys. But the cap right here, sitting right next to your alternator. That's probably the best way to remember it. It says engine oil around top, hard to miss. Unscrew it, set it aside, clean your filter out, and put your filter in, and we'll start filling it up. All right, now for the best part of the oil change. Let's open this dude up. Take it on over there. I just love seeing the color of clean new oil. And then we're just gonna pour it right on in there. Just like so. So we're gonna use 2.5 of these jugs. These ones are interesting. Usually the handle's on the back side of where the spout is. But I gotta say, it pours smooth. It's not glugging or anything. I do like the bottle. But look how golden that looks compared to what we came out with, that black stuff. Now that's just kind of the nature of diesel too. Use that engine oil elsewhere. Open the second one, just like that. Once again, down the hatch with another full bottle. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. You guys would be surprised how tricky it is to do this with one hand. There's my straw and my Super Tech. I always seem to lose these things, so I try to keep them together if I can. I do got to say, I like the lift and peel here. We still got a ways to go. Another good pour or two. Okay, let's see how close we're getting. We're getting closer. Maybe one more good glug. All right, let's take a look now. I think we're getting really close. Yeah, I think I'm going to call that about good because obviously you're not going to drain out all the oil. If that'll focus. There we go, because we're right in between the 2 and the 3 mark. So I'm going to leave it there. And the nice thing about this that I kind of enjoy about getting 3 bottles over the 2.5 gallons, that's exactly how much, is if your truck burns any oil or uses any, then I've got 2 quarts between oil changes. So I'm going to add this to my massive collection of junk over here. Here's what I was talking about earlier. See how, well, let's use the Super Tech bottle as an example. See how they're different? The spout I feel like should be on this side, but it pours good. It pours really good. All right. Now, moment of truth. Take our funnel out. Make sure it's drained all the way. Nice and clean looking in there. We'll set that aside. We'll replace the cap. And now, I'm going to leave this portion for you guys to do on your own. It's not that hard. Just refer to the manual if you need to. We're going to punch the dipstick in there. Get it up to operating temperature. And while you're doing that, you're going to be checking, making sure there's no oil leaks down here. If you got oil leaks down here, you got a problem. You need to stop. Check things out. Make sure things are tight. And then once you do that, just pull your dipstick out, make sure it's measuring appropriately on the dipstick, and you're good to go. So now I am very curious to see, because I don't think this truck's ever run synthetic oil. I could be wrong, but I don't think it has. Very curious to see, whenever we start it up, how it sounds. and what kind of oil pressure we have cold, because that's the whole idea of this, is should help with these cold starts. And albeit it's not cold today, really. It's 52 degrees, so we warmed up a little bit. Oil pressure is a little bit lower. We're at about 70 right now, so the oil pressure is a little bit lower. It helped on a cold startup. We'll see whenever it's on a really cold day, and may just be in my head. I mean, it probably is, but I do feel like it is a bit smoother. The engine's a bit smoother, quieter maybe even. There's less tapping sound that, you know, you kind of get with the diesel engines. So overall, I'm pretty happy with my oil change. So now I'm just going to monitor this thing and make sure she's not leaking any oil and where it needs to be on the dipstick. All right, guys, we got the job done. Boy, that's a good sounding truck, I think. We got the job done today, so I definitely appreciate you guys checking out the video. Don't mind my crazy hair here. No sense in doing it whenever you're doing an oil change, right? Well, I appreciate you guys checking out the video. I'm just gonna do some of the cleanup here that I need to. Guys, if you did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe for more. We're gonna do lots more maintenance items on the Duramax, and we've already done a ton on the 2014 High Country. So if you enjoyed it, definitely check that out. All right, guys, until the next video, take care.